Hello, welcome to the United Devil channel with me, JB. I hope we're all doing really well today. Today is the 10th of July. I've gone a little bit early today than my normal time of around half 10, 11 o'clock, on the basis that right now there's no schedule, purely because I have to work and I have to do this around other things. I hope we're all doing really well today. Let me know in the chat where you're all from. I'd love to know. And if you're watching this after the event, then obviously thank you so much, because I know you guys are watched from all over the place, which is amazing. So thank you for being here in advance. Yesterday's show was amazing. I'm very, very fortunate to have great people who come into the chat. Absolutely amazing people. And, feel free to come into the chat. The only thing that I will always ask and just say, be polite, be respectful of other people's views. You can say what you like to me. I'm old enough. I come on here, I put myself out there, and I'm more than prepared for you to aim things at me. But again, in the chat, I'll always ask, kind of be polite and respectful. We've all got our opinions, and I'm not even saying that mine's right or wrong. It's just an opinion. So thank you for that. What are we talking about today? So today, I genuinely thought the Mbumo saga would be coming to an end. Waiting for here we go, but looking at that most of the evening to see if anything was going to happen, because I want to jump on here and come on here and be positive for once. But it's another show where I'm basically going to be talking about non-positive things. So Jadon Sancho is on the thumbnail. I, for one, am tired of talking about Sancho and the saga around him and some of these players. So yesterday I was talking about Sancho and how basically Vlahovic is done in terms of the contract between him and Juventus has now been ended. So there's 300,000, 280k off of their books. United, because of the contracts that they've done, are going to get some money in for Alanga, and we're going to get about 12 million in. So I was hoping that with that final push, that meant that all the signs were there for Mbumo to get done and Sancho to basically leave the club. Now, Romano Fabrizio, who is obviously the absolute GOAT, who obviously him and Ornstein basically have the information. So anybody who basically went in on this saying that the Sancho deal, by other reports, Sancho deal was apparently done, close to being done. Everyone agreed, agents agreed, clubs agreed. Now, according to Fabrizio, what it actually transpires as is that no formal bid has taken place. There is no club-to-club negotiations. No agent talks were held last week. So it makes me wonder, and I'd love to know, if you want to get into the chat, let me know what you think is happening there. I have an opinion on this and I will share this. And again, it's just my opinion. So as it stands, Sancho is still at the club. Juventus, according to Fabrizio, have no intention of paying his salary, have no intention of bringing the player to the club on that wage. So what is happening? Why were there reports out there? Now, this could be agents, because obviously they need to get him a move. I think basically this is a United stroke agent basically spinning this out, because as we all know, United love a spin. The whole obligation to buy with Chelsea. We all know that was a load of absolute cobblers. We all know that was spun, and pretty much we all got conned in that one. And Chelsea decided to send him back. So I think one of the things to think about in all this when looking at the Sancho deal is that Sancho, he's a free agent, right? So he's got 1 year left on his deal. Okay. Now, I don't know the player as it was. I don't know the guy that sits behind that. All I know him as a player. And the only thing I can think about this player, just because of the things that he's done and how he's behaved, is that I get the impression, and this is his impression, is that he's a mercenary. And why, from a logical perspective, why would he not wait around for a year? Because we all know he loves to play the PlayStation. We all know he likes just to go to London. We all know that he just likes to mess around. This kid's greatest highlights are basically every time he moves. And why is he going to take a pay cut? He literally will get paid what he's getting paid now for the next year, and then when he leaves, he'll probably get that again or around that. He may not get 350, 300k a year, but he's going to get at least 200, right? Nom's going to have to pay a fee. So why is he going to go to another club? Irrespective of what the reports are, he's got another year. We could trigger another year, but why would we trigger another year of paying him for 350k? So you can there are, in my opinion, there are two schools of thought on this where Sancho may sit. Do we trigger the year and say to him, look, you're going to be here for 2 years, and okay, you're going to get paid 300k, but you're going to be 2 years older, and you've still got a long career ahead of you. So are you happy to sit there? So that's a chance that United have to take. Or Sancho, is there a player there that says, well, actually, I don't want to be here for 2 years. I want to move. But the sticking point is the salary. And this is really, really clear now, is that United, I think, and it will come out in the wash as it always does. It may not come out now, but it will definitely come out. If Jadon Sancho leaves, I'm adamant and I'm pretty sure that it's going to come out that we would have paid at least half or a payoff to him for his wages, because I don't believe there's any other way to get Sancho out of this club other than money. And I think we can look at this in two ways. You've got your professional pride. You and I would, at work, if we were asked to leave or we've been forced out, you'd probably, or I would, for my own pride, would I want to sit there and cause a scene? Sometimes I would. And have I in the past? Probably have. But for professional pride, you want to move on to something new. I understand that there's a contract error, and that's the second part to this, is that through no fault of his own, he's been given a contract. So there are two schools of thought on this. So I'd love to know what your opinions are on this. Where do you sit on this? Do you sit on a professional pride? You think as a person or as a play for his career he should go, or should he just basically sit there and say to United, no, you can activate the extra year. I'm not going to go anywhere. Again, like the Rashford thing, we're going to be, the circus is going to be around us still. Is it better for the club, for the atmosphere around the club, when we're trying to build this new United, this new club? And is it better for Sancho to just go and for us to? So our frame, Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong there. Thank you for being in the chat and putting a chat in today. Glazer and Jim out. Big flop Qatar in. Now, if you've been here before, you're going to know my feelings on this, and obviously feel free to have your own feelings on this. I have always been an Ineos out. I hang my hat on that, and my reasoning for that. Thank you very much. So I shall tell you my opinions on this. So I, other people can have their view. You can support Ineos. You can fall somewhere in between, hoping that Ineos and Sir Jim are together. They form a harmonious thing, and you can say that together they are trying to achieve something. But we need to wait years for this. Now, I have been against this completely. I do not understand, and I get it. This is my opinion, and you may fall somewhere else. The Glazers have absolutely destroyed this club. Now, over the 12 years or so, they have never put a penny of their own cash in. We've spent X amount of money. They've hired the wrong people. All they do is they take money out of this club. They don't even pay UK tax. They have no intention of putting money back into the club, to the point whereby now our very home, our very soul, we now have to move from it because it is rotting inside and out, and they have destroyed the very fabric of this club. Now, when you've got an investor, and that's what they were looking for, Sir Jim came along with all this rhetoric and all this falseness that he was going to buy the club, and there was a pathway to buy the club. And as it's transpired, this was never the intention. So Ineos and Sir Jim have come in under the guise that they control the football side, when we know the Glazers are still in charge. So they have propped up the Glazers, given them the money, because they know the plan was always the regeneration plan, and that is the only reason why they are here. So let's not have we can debate this out. You can have your own opinion, but my opinion on this is basically that is it. And I could have given the benefit of the doubt, but the football inside I've seen is the Glazers. They've done nothing. There are some other channels and accounts who've given them the time of day and saying that it's going to take years and whatever else. This is a show that we can talk about. Toxic United in there. Hello and good morning. So that is where we are, or that is where I am on that. I will, no matter what they do until they leave this club, I'm still going to be on them. Will I praise them for the things that they do? I've not seen a single shred of evidence to suggest what they do. They've come in here and they've gutted this club. They've come in, they've taken jobs away from people. These are not people who are earning 200 grand. These are not people who are footballers. These are not these highly paid players. These are people who have families who don't earn a lot of money, and they've come in and they've just taken them out. Which I agree that this club needs financial help, but who caused it and who's continuing to cause it? We have debt up to the eyeballs completely, and what are we supposed to do? So that's my little rant, and I don't apologize for that. You guys can have your opinions on that, but that's where I'm at. Back to Sancho. So round up quickly that there are no agent talks. So contrary to what I even said yesterday, I truly believe that with the money for Fernandes going to Real Madrid, which is about 4 million, Tottenham will take with that. Do you know what? I was going to come on to that, so we can come on to that. That was gonna be a topic. I've got it on my list of things to talk about, and this is why I love you guys in the chat, because you're so far ahead and you're so smart that this is exactly what I was going to talk about. So I might bring that up on my list of things to do. So with Fernandes, with Alanga hoping, and with Vlahovic leaving Juventus, that all the stars aligned. In Burmo as well. So we've got this cash that we didn't know that we were about to have, on all these deals, and all these things were about to get done. Sancho go, and Boomer comes in. So then we start to do something, right? Now, Tottenham. So Tottenham have already started to do their business. Like, how embarrassing is this? So kudos um, from the kit reminds me so much of. I know, right? That's the reason why it's on, because Anana is just. I'm trying to channel um, those vibes because I need positivity, because Anana and goal is just, oh my god. So Spurs, I've gone in and to West Ham and basically gone, we want this player, and they've done. So how embarrassing is that, in a way where a team who obviously got to the final, beat us in the final, know that they need to strengthen their squad, and they're going out and themselves doing and buying players. So as we said in the chat there, so Toxic United have basically said what I was about to say. Is that so? Spurs, according to reports, now we need. Let's be let's play advocate on this one, right? Is that so? Spurs apparently for Wizza are in for Wizza. That name just cracks me up. Anyway, so the Brentford player. Now they are, by all accounts, looking to go in for this player. Now, part of me, and this is just my opinion, so Spurs were going in for Mbermo, and obviously their valuation of the player was 70 million. Now, Thomas Frank has gone to Spurs. You know, was that a way to get the price of the player up to come to try to fleece us? I don't know. We're never going to know. Wizza to Spurs. Now, if this is true, and you know, I've not seen Fabrizio or Ornstein mention this at all. There are reports out there. Of course, there are these coming from? Is this coming from the club? Is this coming from Spurs? Is it coming from Thomas Frank to basically get United to do this deal? Obviously, Frank is not going to, do anyone a favour. But is this the Brentford? Is this them trying to effectively trying to push this deal to say, look, if Wizza goes to Spurs, Mbermo is not going to leave? That's a really good point. I don't know where you stand on this. So I've always said this, and the longer this transfer goes on, and this is what the club don't seem to get. There are certain cards and certain scenarios that can fall. So the longer you negotiate for a player, you open up avenues for the transfer to fail, other people to come in. In this case, you don't know if other people will come in, if other clubs will come in for players. The Toxic United says at this rate, I would pay 65 up front, and if Kudus is 55 and Burma is 65 easy. I completely agree with you on that one. I think that when you're looking at a player who's actually a left winger by trade, who's not supposed to get 20 goals, who got 20 league goals last season, and the fact that Alanga now was 55, Kudos 55, he's worth 65. And if we had 65 mil to get this done, I would get this done. We've just got, or we're just about to receive payments for two players with clauses in the contract. That's 12 million. Why can't we add this onto the deal and just get this done? I don't, at this point, we are 6-7 weeks in. I don't understand now. I do understand, but from a rhetorical viewpoint, I don't understand what it is that they're doing. I know they're penny pinching, and I know that they're trying to get this deal down, but just pay what they want. Because if Wizza goes, I can see this deal collapsing. There's no way that they're going to want to lose Thomas Frank, and then they're going to want to lose two of their best players this season. And I worry about the Mbeumo do. So I right now, I don't panic on most stuff, because ultimately, after living this club for 38 years, I've pretty much seen most things happen. These last 12 years have been the worst. I've seen this last 3 years probably been the worst. Nothing surprises me about this club. Whether or not I want it to happen, whether or not you guys in the chat want this to happen, we all know that anything is possible with this club. So I'm in agreement with the chat so far. I think that let's just get this deal done. He's worth 65. You know, Alanga's gone for 55. You could argue, is Alanga worth 55 in this market on what he did last year? Yes, yes. So if he is worth 55, then a player who scores goals, 20 goals, he's definitely worth it. And playing in the number 10 or so, he brings you physicality. I think his attitude is right. I think he's the sort of player that we need. I think trying to be smart a bit too much. Is that me trying to be too smart, or is that the club? I've never been accused of being too smart in my life. I know. Yeah, you're right. The club is trying to be too. The club, in my opinion, is trying to act like a business, and this has been said by other people. You can't run a football club like a business, and I do sit on the fence in terms of what we do for players, right? So I don't want us to overpay on players, and we've paid in the past, and I've complained about that, and I've moaned that we have overpaid for players. But in instances like this, we're not overpaying. We're not overpaying 65 mil for a goal scorer, for a player who's not going to drop off. He's not a one season wonder. This guy is a beast. I think he's a beast. I think if he comes to us, if he goes to any club, he's going to improve them. If you're a top 4 club, so I guess how I look at this, if you are in a top 4 club, would he fit in there? Yes, he would. Finishing, you're right. I've watched some clips of him, like with, I can't remember his name, doing like a shooting thing, and the guy in Burma is unreal. You're right. There are some players who can finish. There are some players who are naturally good, and when you watch him play, you can see he's 25 years old. He is the perfect player, and all I want to do is celebrate this player. All I want to do is get this player in, because he is fantastic. I want to get him in the club, and I want to come on here, and I want to chat about him. I want us to envision what we think he's going to do. He would start any except Liverpool. To be fair, with the amount of players that they've got, I think that's fair enough. But I think, I think he'd push for a place. I think he would probably push for a place there. But you're right with the amount of players. And again, the fact that you've said that. So the fact that and I think you've raised a good point there. So Liverpool, the fact that you've raised that point there is that Mbeumo wouldn't fit into their squad. And we're trying to catch up with these teams who've already bought these players, who've already got these players. We've brought one player in. We're literally trying to scrape across the line with another player who would get into top 4 side, but not into Liverpool side. And how are we supposed to catch up? There are lots of aggregators and lots of other accounts who's sitting on the fence, and I'm not calling anyone out saying, this is going to take years, and it's going to take years to do, and we need to be patient for the window, and we need to do this and that. if we don't want to be left behind and an irrelevant club, irrespective of our size, because whether rivals agree with this or not, we are the biggest club. We are right now. We are an irrelevant club. We're not even in a conversation for top four. And any fans, and again, you can have your opinion. And I would absolutely love if anybody wants to get into the chat and say, I believe that right now we can get into the top six. I believe we can get into the top four. I would more than happily love to have that chat because I would love to have that chat because I'd love you to educate me as much as I have my views. And there's some views that I'm not going to change. It's an opinion, but I'm more than happily to try to be convinced to actually have a debate in the chat and be like, this is why I think we can finish in the top four. And again, all these wild ideas, bring them in to the chat. I am not going to. I'm not the sort of. This is not a sort of place whereby I'm going to say things are banned. As long as we're polite and we talk nice, bring in your craziest ideas. Toxic United talks are continuing between United and Brentford, and the deal is actually close. A deal is in the region. 65 is close to being agreed, although delays have mainly been around player payments. Yeah. I think that's spot on. That's again, I was going to bring that into the show as well. Absolutely spot on there. And I think that's right. I do think we're close. I do think that deal's been agreed, and we are just quibbling over how we're going to pay this deal. I think that there are too many factors now, and United clearly don't care about what fans think. They clearly have no care at all, unless we riot. And I don't mean riot as in I just mean unless we protest. Glazers don't care. United and Brentford are getting close to Brandon Burma. Final agreement. Expect United to be on the US tour. Sources Graham Bailey. Wizard sell one impact. Oh. Who's that? Graham Bailey. I'll have to thank you for bringing that into the chat. That's brilliant. Graham Bailey. Let's have a little look. Graham Bailey and Burmo. Burmo. Onyx. Oh, football in focus. Burmo to United. Delay completion target set. More than a month has passed. Okay, so that's an interesting update there. That's interesting. So I'd be very keen now to see. I can just do a quick check on X to see what Romano says. Ornstein, United, no, nothing yet. So let's if that is true, and to be fair, if somebody is prepared to put that statement out, my only caveat to that is that this has been said now for the last couple of weeks that the deal's close, and I think that if you're gonna put that out there, Graham Bailey, to be fair, 120, yeah. Oh, so he's decided to go early on this and proclaim that it's about to be done. I don't disagree with that. I think that this could be any time now. It's basically like waiting for your wife to give birth. That's the only thing that I can liken this to. Is basically you wait for like 9 months, and then you get to like the final weeks, and then you just like, come on. I paraphrase it each and every day. That's the same thing, but exactly like towards the end, when you get to 9 months, you literally waiting every single day. Any little twinge, any little thing, and you're just like, come on, come on, come on, and then you're waiting for that. Let's go, and that's what this feels like. It feels like a saga. And I know we're trying to get the best deal, but if we come out of this 65 minutes, and this is the bit, and these words stick in my brain. We don't want to run to a bad deal. We want to walk to a good deal. Wait, and still wait and continue to wait. Exactly. We don't want to run to a bad deal, but we want to walk to the best deal. I don't think this is a bad deal. So to say this straight away, I don't think that this is a bad deal. So what the fuck are they walking? What the fuck are they walking to? This is the bit that I don't get. They're going to end up paying 65 million, which is a good deal. So I do not understand what it is that they're walking to. The structure of the payments, Klarna vouchers. Like I just don't get that. So I think you're right. I think this deal will get done. So Brentford and us, I don't think we work on a weekend. So if this is not done by Mark Harris. Mark Harris is in the chat. How are you doing, buddy? Just get rid of toxic players. United holding out for top money, not happening. We can switch to that because I think that's Sancho all over. So I think in Burma, if it's not done by Friday, we don't work on a weekend, which is crazy. So it will drag on into next week, but I think he'll get done. He's in LA. I think he'll. I think this is what I think will happen, and I don't know what you guys think. I think they'll line in Burma up for the black kit next week. So that's coming out on the 16th. And I think they'll line him up for the black kit. I think he'll be in that black kit and they'll line him up for that. So that's why I think this is being held up. I think there's an agreement in place. I think it's all going to be agreed. We'll get a here we go next 2 days and he'll be in the black kit. That's what I think it is. And if he is, you can just see it completely. Mark Harris to just get rid of these toxic players. I agree. I don't want to give these players away, but the likes of Sancho, these are. I think this. I think the black kit is coming out. I think it's the 16th, or whenever that's out. I think it's next week. So I will either get a here we go on Friday to just basically curb the fans, and I think that we'll get him. We'll see him in a black kit next week. That's what I think. I think we'll see him in that black kit. Get rid of these toxic players holding out for top money. 16. Oh, is it? Is the purple white kit? When's the black kit out? Is that out now? It might be the purple kit then. So I think they're going to hold out for a kit launch. So if 16th is the purple kit, then I think you'll hold off till then, and they'll do something around that. Yeah, okay. 16th is around a kit or around something. So I think that it'll be the purple kit then. So let's wait and see. Let's wait and see on that one. Just get rid of these toxic players. Now, what I'd like to know, you can get in the chat on this one. So when we're thinking about Sancho, we're thinking about these toxic players because obviously Sancho is, even though he was told don't come back to the club, he's come back into the club as it is right to do. He's protected by the players association, so he can come back and try and come and bring the media circus back into the club, as he will do because he's trying to force a move. Number 10 has gone from him, so I don't know why he's back. Sancho, if Amarin's P45 going into Talek, we can come back to that as well. So these toxic players. So what I want to know is get rid of these toxic players. We can't get done over for low prices. But how low would you go? So for example, Rashford, how low would you go? You know, we need to sell him or loan him out. And let's just say somebody come in for an offer. Would you take 25 million for him, or do you think that's too low? Sancho, I'd give him away for a bag of criffs, but you know, he needs to go. I just don't see how Sancho goes and we make any cash off of it. So what about so Garnacho? You know, how low do we go? So with Alango, you know, who's 25, he's only 21. You know, with the amount of games and the amount of goals that he's scored, you know, is he worth 55 million? Hopefully he will go. And I do think there is some stuff around him. The fact that 21 years old, he's been really quiet. I do suspect that he will go very soon. I don't know who, but I think he will go, and I'll be interested to see how much cash we get for him. I'd like to think 40 million at least. I think he's worth in this market 55 to 60, but I may be pie in the sky. I don't think we'll get anywhere close to that. So 40 million, I think, is probably the limit, purely because of Amarin and the club and what they've done. And it's interesting. It's interesting on that one. But I do think we do need to get these players out. And Burma, one good season, and they want top dollar. Can he do it? Game in, game out with no service from Bruno? That is a very good question, and we're going to find out. I think we are going to find out. And that's a good point, because you look at the graveyard shift, right? So, and Burmo, ultimately, he's there for, I don't think he's just there for goals, but I'd be interested to see if he can do it for us. He needs to be the leader, and this is and almost we are taking a little bit of a chance, but everybody has to, right? I think he's there for his attitude. Also, I think he's there for the potential goals based on last season. But you make a good point. And I also think he's there to provide service and to be a creative player as well as go. So I do think that's going to be on him as well. I think he will need to add that assist into his game as well as goals, because he's going to play in a number 10 role. But Fernandez, for me, is, and we'll link that to the Amarin thing as well. Irrespective of whether we've got Cunha in Burmo, if the rest of the team, particularly those wing backs, left backs, don't provide width or crosses, and Fernandez doesn't do what he's told, Amarin's gone. I'm not an Amarin out right now. I am on the fence, and I'm on the fence because of the red flags, and I've spoken about this. The red flags that I have, the way that he's not even improved these players 10%, 5%, the tactics that he's done, the final, the way that he's devalued some players. I don't disagree that we can't. I can't have it both ways. I want these players gone. I want action to be taken, but there's a way to do it. I can see what he is trying to do, but our owners are shut. Exactly. This is beyond. This is, you know, I think all these opinions in the chat have legs, but I think collectively we almost need to look at it from a collective view. Amarin hasn't been the manager that maybe we were expecting and what we were led to believe he was. But there are reasons for that. But conversely, there are things that I've not really seen, but because the management is so poor, and he's not had the support, and and whether you're Amarin in or out, and obviously you can form your opinion on either, is that I don't see right now what support the manager has had. You know, he doesn't have his own players, and again, it could be argued that a manager of his quality should be able to come in, and irrespective of who the players are, that he should be able to improve them in some sense. But conversely, we all know what the players are like. We all know that for professional pride, why they can't play the way that they do. We've got a captain who I he's a stat padder. The eye test doesn't lie, but again, I will concede that without him, we probably would have gone down without his goals. Doesn't mean that I think he's a world class player. Doesn't mean I particularly think that he's the player that we need. But the fact that Amarin and the club were offered at least 100 million for him, Amarin will have to, and to come back to the P45, if Fernandez doesn't perform, then the fans will be on his back. And I think his fate is linked to Bruno and Fernandez. If you look at, I think he had a month or two where he was all right last season, but we all know. We all know. So Amarin is taking an absolute punt. But to go back to Toxic United there, I can see what he's trying to do. I can see what he wants, but I unless you can try to convince me otherwise, and you guys may have your opinions on this as well. But I don't see a backing right now. I don't see an appetite to get these players out, and the biggest hindrance to all this is we're skint. I think we're absolutely brassic. I think we are absolutely skint, and we need money to come into this club. And again, whose fault is that? The owners. And to come back to that point, we all know what he wants to do, but there is no money there. So again, we're going to keep in this perpetual thing whereby we don't back managers, or we back the manager. We spent 300 million last year, and then we sacked him. So we are paying for historically being bad, and Ineos was part of that last season. Players should be on game by game contract. Draw, lose 25% off the wages. There's no incentives to win. I like the idea. I think there's definitely some players I would put on that. And obviously the biggest issue with that is obviously we're trying to attract players. So sadly, as much as a concept, I like the idea. But for somebody like a Calvert-Lewin, that's definitely a sort of deal that I would do there. But incentive-wise, I think you're right. You look at the Anthony deal. I think that's one that he was on 50,000 a week, and we decided to give him 250 to 200k a week. Where's the incentive to earn that? Looking back, and again, I think Mike Harris is from the same era as me. Is that when you look at some of the best players in the world, and we look back, and I think it's really important to look back into the past. The likes of Beckham, the likes of Keane, the likes of Pallister, Schmeichel, they had to clean seniors' boots. They didn't care. And we're talking about players who weren't world stars. The the logic behind that was to make them appreciate the club. They were on YTS schemes, and they didn't earn a lot of money at 18. They had to come into the club and they had to prove themselves. They were cleaning these players' boots, being around the club, knowing and understanding what it was like from a worker's perspective, knowing what it was like to rise up the ranks and be fortunate to play in front of this crowd. And I don't think it's just United. I think that's a lot of players. How do you now incentivize these players? And I really don't know. When you're talking the fact that the average player now is what, on 100k, even these youth players. I worry about incentivizing players. How we now rely, and this is what I really think is character of the players. Their families. What they're like as a family. Are they from a family that they are championing these players? Because I've heard there's loads of players, like I think is Verts, who basically lets his mum and dad control his money. And I think, whether you think that's a good thing or not, we now rely on players' attitudes and their beliefs. And Sancho, for me, is typical of that. Rashford, I think, wasn't, and then he got agents around him, and in trying to incentivize, as you say, players who are now toxic, who all they care is about money. They surround themselves with sycophants who tell them basically they're the best player in the world and their club is, they don't know. And this is why United have seemed to have collated and collected a bunch of toxic mercenary players. Toxic. United says many people close to United said the deal will be done on Monday as they receive the money of Alanga. How? I don't disagree with that. I expect this deal to be done in the next, But again, though, how far have we fallen? That, whether that's true or not, how far have we fallen? We need to wait for money for a player we didn't know we were going to get, or we need that money to complete this deal. I just want to let that sink in for a second. And if we hadn't have got that money in, would this deal have continued on? And I want us to think about that. For we didn't know that we were going to get this money. We announced the signing. Oh, we have announced the signing. There's this young kid. Isn't there? Who's basically from Southampton. I can't remember his name now. Maybe you could tell me in the chat. I saw this last night. He's a highly sought after Southampton youth player. Let me have a little look as we're talking as well. Let's see who can get to it first in the chat. No, not Diego Leon. There's another player. Let's see who can get to it in the chat first. Him too, but another guy. The club has just posted it on Instagram. Oh, let's have a little look. Man United. Hi, Bobby. I hope you're doing well, sir. I went a little bit early this morning. Manchester United. Oh, yep. Let's have a little look. We're excited to announce that. Oh my God, I'm going to butcher his name. Enzo Canabiac. Probably just destroyed that. I don't know. He looks very young. We're excited to announce the signing of Enzo Canabiac. I'll stick his name in the chat. One for the future, in case you want to look at this. Enzo. God. Yak. definitely one for the future. I wonder how old he's. I bet he's like 15 or something. Let's have a little look. See what's going on. United have signing 18. He's 18 from Le Havre. He's a striker. 18 years old. Enzo Bayeka. He is 18 years old and he's from Le Havre. That's interesting. That's an interesting one. United, when did we sign him? Today, or there's he's basically just signed today. Is he going on loan? He's going on loan this year. There you go. I need to throw these kids in first team. Call it a project. Amram will get to keep his job for 45 years. Mike Harris, you do crack me up. I don't think that Amarin, if he doesn't get the players in, and this is sad to say, right? So right now in Burmo in, a striker in, and at this point in time, as long as it's not Calvert-Lewin, which we've been saying on here for weeks and weeks now, as long as it's not him or Vardy or someone else of that ilk. Vlahovic, I think we made a good point yesterday. I think you guys made a good point on that. Vlahovic, 25, left foot. Take a punt on him. I'd even take him right now. And I think we need a goalkeeper. I think with Mbeumo, a striker, and a goalkeeper, right now we are 12th. I think we get a new goalkeeper, a striker, Mbeumo. I think we could limp away to an 8th. And obviously that's depending on no one gets injured, So I think we have enough there. I would take Ken Dodd on a pogo stick over Højlund. Tell you what, Mark, you are showing your age, mate. I don't think there's many people who would know who Ken Dodd is, mate. I'll take Ken Dodd on a pogo stick. Højlund, I'm 102. You sound like it, buddy. No, 102. Højlund, tickling sticks. Oh, I'm sure there's some historical things on Ken Dodd, but that's another story, right? Højlund. What do we Enzo? Can you back Lausanne Sport? Interest to keep an eye on him, actually. That's Kone. Kone. We can. What about Kone? I'd like to see him come through. I want to see him go on tour. I want to see him come through this season. Højlund up front. I don't know. I can't decide on Højlund. If it was a choice of Højlund, play Kone against Arsenal, just go for it. Mm-hmm. I think if Højlund goes on tour, I think that I would just take a punt on him. I really would. Ten Hag told us Alvaro Carreras wasn't good enough, so he played Amrabat at left back, and then sold him for Malacia. Ten Hag. I wasn't a Ten Hag outer. And with hindsight, I think I was probably wrong on that one. I think that I was so annoyed at the ownership that I wanted Ten Hag to be given a chance, and now he's joining Real Madrid. I think Ten Hag, along with the management, along with Ineos, along with the Glazers, I think Ten Hag and that 300 million has definitely set us back. I think Ten Hag was stubborn. I think it transpires that he was a stubborn coach. I like what they tried to do, but I think he set us back, and I think we even into this season are going to pay for the decisions that he made and the decisions that the club made around that time. So Højlund, just to quickly go back to Højlund, Ten Hag committed genocide on United's first team, maybe 10 years. I don't think it was just him. I think that he was allowed because he had a veto, and I think that he was allowed to go wild on players that he thought. Ten Hag, like many managers before him, I think that Slot is an anomaly. They come to the Premier League not understanding the pace, not understanding the actual league itself, and has been caught out. And then what they then do is they play survival mode. They go back to the basics. And Ten Hag, looking back now, I do, and it's not all of his fault. Is Amarin repeating the cycle? That's basically the question. Really, is if Amarin's not brave, if Amarin toes the party line, if Amarin doesn't play and he goes into survival mode and then plays the Casemiros, Fernandes is going to play every game, and irrespective of whether he's good or bad next season, I think he's going to live or I think he's going to live or die on those two midfielders. I'd like to see some of the youth come in. I'd like to see Amas come in on the left. Kone in that midfield. I hope Kone has a Mainu type of pre-season and comes in and, I just really want that player to break through. Højlund playing every game. Onana, please say no. No. I'm saying no now. I'm absolutely saying no. I do not want to see that. Onana, I don't know what we're going to do with him. We need a goalkeeper, even if it's a number 2, to displace him. If United sell Onana, then I will start believing that we are a serious club and we're starting to do stuff. Højlund may not get sold because of the financials involved and because we know we're penny pinching. And I think unless somebody comes in and wants to buy him with an obligation to buy, I think he stays. Onana in goal. Onana and Højlund replace them, will be a top 6. If we get a decent striker, a new goalkeeper, I think if the players succumb to the tactics, I think we have enough youth. I think we have enough quality in the back four. I think back four we're okay. We might need another wing back, left back. Then I think we could be pushing top 6 to top 8. But we need to get rid of the goalkeeper. I think it's fair to say that we're all in agreement. I don't think that there's unless you don't agree with that, feel free to put in your case for Onana. Tommy is an academy. Yeah, hasn't he retired? Milton's in the chat. I thought he retired and he's now the academy goalkeeper. So unless Onana can get replaced, I don't see us. I think we could play some fantastic stuff next season, and Onana will cost us games. And I think of everything we talk about on here, I think that we can all agree that Onana is gonna cost us. Mark Harris, Bruno has to be dropped. Play Kone the first 5 games. Bruno invisible against top 6 teams. I don't disagree, but Bruno is not going to be dropped. We we had a chance of 100 million, 120 million for this player, and Amarin said no. Amarin wanted to keep him, so I don't think there's a single chance. I think he plays. I think he plays wherever. I think he plays in that number 8 role. I think he plays in that kind of verging on a centre midfielder who needs to be a disciplined, who needs to sit there, who needs to, you know, play these shorter balls, be that conductor. No chance. So Amarin, if you want him to go, I don't. Those first 5 games, I yeah, I I don't want to be the one to say it, but I'm hope I'm proved wrong. 100 million buys a lot of Burger King burgers for Luke Shaw. Oh, I keep forgetting about Luke Shaw. Oh my god. At this point, Luke Shaw is an ornament. Um, he's I don't know, unless he's had a transplant, a leg, and uh, Anana is terrible. My nan would be better in goal. So would mine, and she's been dead for 10 years. So, um, Bobby, I agree with you, mate. It is risky with Anana in goal. A wallet transplant, yeah, right. Um, it is risky. I think it's beyond risky. You can't. And I was reading something actually. I can't remember. I think it was. I can't remember now, but there was a goalkeeper who was basically saying that Anana, in terms of his basic play, he's a terrible goalkeeper. Like the basics are just not there. And I I and one of the biggest things for me is that back 4 is just not confident, and then we've got this back 4-5, which I actually think is fine. I think we'll be okay with it next season. I think it's a top 6 back 4, maybe top 5 back 4. I think where, as long as injury wise, we are okay. I think that's a top 5, top 6 back 4. But that goalkeeper brings us down to 10th. They've got no confidence in him. Nobody has. He comes in smiling away, and the only comfort I've got is the African nations. And Amarin, I hope he tells him, you go in this season. I don't want you. I don't want you here. I don't want you flying a plane back because you're going to miss out on the team. That's your choice. I want you to go to give another keeper a chance. So Anana, he's more than risky. You just know. Um, a wallet transplant for Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw is living his best life. He is living his life. I would terminate his contract. Any big club would terminate his contract. I know he's going to cost us money, but I would. What use is he? I mean, we all know. Is he gonna start the first game of the season? No, he's done. Watching him play, but again, Mason Mount, and I think we were so focused on the Cunhas and the Mbermos, plays like Mount. Like what are we going to do with Mason Mount next year? Considering we've got those number 10s locked down, are we going to put Cunha up front, Mbermo up front? We these players like Luke Shaw, Mount, Anana. Whilst these are still here and there's a chance of playing, I really fear on that. So yeah. In other news, there's a couple of bits and bobs that I wanted to bring in as well, which I saw overnight. So you can tell me what you guys think about this stadium. So I did see a lot of people on X and a lot of people like myself who are realistic, how much would a new goalkeeper cost? I would go and get a reasonable 20 million, 25 million. I wouldn't even necessarily go for a number one goalkeeper. You could even take a punt on a keeper who is an up and coming one and stick him in goal. What's the worst that could happen? Like Anana, I just don't see how we could be worse. We could be worse, but even Kepa's gone to Arsenal for 6 million. I'd 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 even take him right now. So I think there are deals out there to do. New stadium is now on the back burner. Funny that. Well, you say that, and you do make a good point because when we were about to protest, they put out the stadium. But let me just stop you there for a second. So it's come out because obviously there's nothing happening in the club, but Seb Coe, the runner, got more spin than a Zanussi washing machine. Exactly. But you've got to hear this one. Seb Coe, one of the finest athletes that this country has produced, a runner, athletics, Olympic committee, and all that stuff. He is now going to lead the task force for the stadium. Another circus clown being added to this mess. So Seb Coe, again, who has basically links into the government. I think he's Sir Seb Coe, is going to lead the task force for the stadium. But it gets even better, because we're going to host the Women's World Cup in 2035. So in 10 years' time, we are going to, and how this has got anything to do with the club right now, the women's game is its own game, and I'm not here to say anything about that. But our new stadium that we need to have, because they've let this club rot and try to die. There's a 100%. So sorry, Lord Seb Coe. You're right. He's not a sir, is he? He's a lord. So he's going to lead the task force for the stadium, for the circus tent, for the Women's World Cup in 2035. And the club are happy to put that out there as a main point and as a main piece of news. Money talks, and there's Neville, another weasel man. Gary Neville disappoints me pretty much every single day. For somebody who is Mr. United, wherever there's a United thing, he's there. I mean, Neville supports Huel. I don't know if you know what Huel is. Huel is basically this awful, horrible food drink thing, and the controversy around them as well, because they're just basically crap. And he'll basically go to an opening door wherever there's money, but he won't speak out. He won't speak out on the club. He's a Labour guy, whether you know what Labour is. So Labour is traditionally the workers party. They support workers, they support workers' rights. They're all about the working people. Where was Neville when people were getting sacked? Where was he? Was he when this club needed him, needed a voice to say, that we need these clowns out? No, he's opened hotel football, and he's got all these, and again, he's got like a development as well. I think regeneration wise, he's going to be part of that as well. So for all his rhetoric, he's probably one of the biggest hypocrites of this club. He doesn't speak out. For a guy who was, at the forefront of this club, he was a fighter. He fought his way up, but yet he's not prepared to fight for the fans. He's not prepared to fight for the club, and he's prepared to take a paycheck from Ineos and the Glazers, and to get in bed with Lord Coe and get in bed with Ineos, Sir Jim, and basically stick his fingers up to fans. So I've got no time of day for that clown. So so 2035 women's World Cup, which United and which the men's team, which we are talking about here, are nothing to do with us. So doesn't that just go to show that how long this stadium is going to take to be built? Apparently it's going to be built by 2028, 2029. Again, when things don't go right, we'll be spun ahead and we'll be completely spun out on that. Regional head of emerging talent. Also, we've put it out there in the middle of a window that we need a senior recruitment lead in this club as well. And we are happy to put that out there. So we are now looking for a head of recruitment, senior head of recruitment, because as we know, we are terrible. And United are happy to put that out in the midst of a transfer window that is failing. Why do we need to know this? Like Barada quoted as United winning EPL by 2028. There's another P45. Barada is, when that was announced, I actually thought it was a coup, and I actually thought brilliant. We've got a City man who, has he jumped ship because of the 115, because he knows something that we don't. They're building this crack team, and he's just another clown. He is a money man. He's answerable to the Glazers. He rarely speaks, and 2028, which is in 3 years' time, 28, and I think that's the 28-29 season or the 27-28 season. What I just sometimes just have to sit here and just think about all these things. Amarin, the fall guy in this movie, 100%, 100%. And it's like I've said this, I think I've said this in the last few shows, is that when these managers are sacked and Amarin is not in danger, but I think he's starting to fall off a cliff. If and when he does go, I don't want an excuse for him. I want managers to be sacked because their tactics, they got their players, maybe not first choice players, maybe they didn't get their number one or number two, but they got their targets and they got their players, and then they live and die on the decisions that they make on the football pitch. They, injuries do happen. And to a certain extent, that can be used as an excuse. With no experience of EPL, it doesn't work. I will come back to that as well. So I think that's an interesting point that you've raised there. Is that I don't want him to be sacked because he didn't get his players, because this outfit, he's the fall guy. So I want him to be sacked. I don't want him to be sacked, but if a manager is sacked, it needs to be on the basis. But what we do is we repeat a cycle. We don't get our targets in, our plays in. We'll tell Ruben he just got to work with this, and the cycle repeats again. He'll be left out. He'll be fed to the Wolves, and then that's him gone. And then directly linked now to what Mike Harris has said. I don't want a foreign coach with no experience of EPL. It doesn't work. It's an interesting point. Now, my counter to that is not because I think you're wrong, is how many English managers have won the Premier League? And I know you can say that, like how many managers have walked into this league with little experience and won the league against how many coaches who have been here with Premier League experience. How many times have they won the league? So if we're looking at the likes of Arnie Slot, immediately there we can say, well, he's come into a Liverpool who didn't buy any players. They didn't win the league, and he's come in and he's won the league in his first season with no new players and with little experience of the league. And in his first season, he won the league. Counted to that point, right? Liverpool, however, and again, there's another counterpoint to that. Liverpool already had a good team, structure in place, and could anyone else have walked into that side? And that's exactly what I'm saying there, Mark. I nice setup at Liverpool, and that could be the counterpoint here. Is that setup at Liverpool is really, really good. It's not like they've got bad players, is it? They have some quality players. It did help that City didn't have a good season. Arsenal didn't have a striker, and we all know that Arsenal they don't like to win things either. So I think there's a counterpoint to that. I think Conte didn't he come into the league and he won it. He won it at the first time of asking. Did Pep win it in his first year? I can't remember if Pep won it or not in his first year. Pellegrini, I think Pellegrini, did he win it in his first year? Jose, did Jose come in and win it in his first year as well? I'm just trying to think who's won the league in the last couple of years. Ranieri won, but again, he's been here before. So I don't just want any foreign coach. I think you're right, but I'm going to ask the question to Mark Harris because he has raised a good point. Is who would you? And I think have you mentioned Carsley before, or who would you take as an English manager or a British guy? Who would you take? Who if someone said to you, Amarin's going to get sacked after the first 5 games, who would you go and get? Who would be on your list? Like who would be on your list as the next coach to take over? Because any good club should have a succession list, right? Who would you go and get? Southgate. Don't even get me started on that. I like Carsley. If fans would buy into the youth. Interesting counterpoint there. Klopp used to play a full team of youth with the first 3 teams, bringing the youth through. What English manager would we get? I don't know. Mark Harris has raised a point about is Carsley there? Now, Southgate for me is an absolute no. Unless you want to see boring, mind-numbing football. Yeah. United, I don't think for Carsley, United would be as forward-thinking and take a nice waistcoat. Oh, he'd bring them into the game. Waistcoat game, he's got that in abundance. I like what you're saying there, the youth. And I think where I stand on this, right, is that last couple of coaches are so focused on the senior players, right? Which Sakardi did well with under 21s. I can't see him doing well with the way that United are ran. Interesting point there as well. We need a coach who is not scared to play the youth, and I think, and I'm of this opinion as well. So Bobby need a full reset from the first team. I agree. I think we need a good blend of experienced players, and again, people may go, "Oh, you're harking back to the past," but it works, right? You look at the Busby Babes, okay, and we can go back as far as that. You look at the Busby Babes, and then Ferguson. Okay, we you know, rival fans will say, "Oh, you just hark back to the past." I'm not harking back to that past. I'm looking at the DNA of this club and what we've done and what other teams do, and they have this really good blend of youth players that come through this constant. And Liverpool, as you say, there they do it really well. There's this constant conveyor belt of these players that come through, can slot into the first team. Amas quality. They come into the first team and they seamlessly fit into the first team. Now, whether or not they can continue that and they maintain that is by the by, because you look at Liverpool now, they're gonna look to sell Brady, is it? Their left back, and they're going to get 50 million. And we need that blend of like Acuna. What we basically need to do is we need to strip out, as you say, these players. We need to get senior players in who have that fight, who are there to act as leaders to the youth, who are there to make these younger players know what it's like to play for this club, to have pride in this club. And this is what we need to do, is we do need to give them a chance. I'm not talking about just chucking in a load of youth, even though, do you know what? Can't be as bad as last season. We need that blend, so we've got like an Amas, Kones, the Mainus. He still needs a chance. I think he's still young. Is he infected too much by the first team? I don't know. Obi, I want to see these players start to come through, and then we start to get rid of these players. Like a Heaven. I think Heaven last season, I think was. I don't know who decided to play him. Amarin, if it was him, I think he deserves credit. I think Heaven is the best example of, you buy a youth player, 2 million quid, and you give him a chance. And look at what he did last season. Heaven was brilliant. I thought Heaven was absolutely amazing last season. Manla 2-2's back. Big up, please name the sensible senior leaders we got. Right, okay. You can help me out in the chat with this one. I'd love to know who you think that you'd keep. So Cunha, of course. I think Mbermo, obviously, when he comes in. So I think those two could be the kind of spearheads. De Ligt, I think De Ligt is a leader. I think he knows what it's like to lead. He was captain at Ajax at 18. I think he knows what it's like, and I think he knows what it is to play for this club. Yoro, I think I would keep him as well. Again, I think he's a young player. I think he's a sensible player. I think he's got loads on his side. Outside of that, as a leader, I struggle. Fernandez, Martinez, again, I forget about him. Martinez, yes. As a player, I think if we can get some money for him, I think he's injury prone. I think he's a great player. I think his attitude is amazing. As a leader, yes. As a player, I'm not sure. Bruno Fernandes, Bobby, I think you're valid, and I think you're right to think that. I think that is I think people do like Bruno, and I think a lot of player. Maguire, as a redemption story, as a player who's got his head down, yes, but I as a captain, he couldn't. It proved he couldn't handle it. So as a leader, if he was a younger player, as a leader and what he's been through and their mentality, yes, but captain wise and that kind of stuff, I think he's on a on. I think Maguire is an interesting one. I don't know if he's a good leader, but again, that's your opinion. I think he's a mentality wise. I think he'd be good around for the youth players, and again, those are players that you need round as a leader. I, I don't know. I'm on the fence of that one. I do think that as a player, average, injury prone now, irrespective of that. But if he was younger, to be in the dressing room with some of these idiots, he would be one that I would keep in there because what he's been through and the mud that he went through, and yet he still came through that, and he was pretty good last season. I think the mentality is there. Uh, Bruno Fernandes, I he's captain and he's the best we've got. I don't think he's a leader. He does get the club. I do get that he does get the club, but I'm going to say this: don't be confused that he stayed here because he loves the club. I think he stayed here because he didn't want to go to Saudi, and a bigger club hasn't come in for him. I think if a Bayern came in for him or a Real Madrid come in for him, I think he'd go. So I think he gets the club, but I don't think we should be confused by he stayed at the club because he loves the club and he's turned all his money down. No, he stayed at this club because he doesn't want to go to Saudi, and no other club has come in for him. So I and as a leader, I think he leads in the wrong way. I think his mentality is hit and miss. Would I keep him? Right now, I would because we haven't got anyone else. But if we could get rid of the player, I can't lie and say that I wouldn't. I would have sold him. And I think he does sulk a lot. I think that would be for me. I think when you remove him, other players have to stand up. And I think we had a great opportunity to get a new personality in this club and a new way, but I think we bottled it. Mike Harris, you could describe United as a South African mercenaries working in a nursing home called Old Trafford with a sprinkling of youth. Oh, I don't even know. I don't even know what to say on that one. We are full of mercenaries. We are absolutely full of mercenaries. Um, and the moment that we get rid of these players, which hopefully will be this week, then it's not going to be this week, is it? If we get rid of these players by the end of this month, is asking a lot. I think we'll be in a healthier position. So what I'm hoping for is we can look back on these videos and go, do you know what? The leaks need to go as well, 100%. But I think the problem is that the size of the club, the agents, and what I'm hoping for, these mercenary players who will go, maybe you'll start to see the end of these leaks. So, an hour and 28 minutes, guys. That's amazing. I am going to have to end the show there. Again, another amazing show. You guys in the chat are fantastic. I'll always say this about you guys. You are amazing. Rashford isn't going. He's going to throw him the number 9. Bench Hoyland. Amrin doesn't have the bottle for that. Amrin isn't going. He'll throw him the number 9 shirt. To be honest with you, I think if that happened, then Amrin's gone. I think there are very loyal fans, the match going fans, obviously. I think the fan base would turn on him. And I think at that point, I think I'd be calling for his head as well. To be honest, I think Hoyland, as much as you maybe don't want him here, I can see why potentially that they couldn't get rid of him because of money they paid, etc. I understand that. Whether or not I agree with that, but if Rashford was handed a number 9 shirt, Mark Harris, I think you would get your wish, and I think Amarin would be gone. I don't even think he'd last 5 games. I think the fan base would turn on him, and yeah, but nothing surprises me with this club. So on that note, guys, I am going to have to end the show there. You are all amazing. The chat cracks me up. Thank you to everyone in the chat. It just really makes my day. It really does. I think that this chat is fantastic. As always, if anything breaks, which it never does, then hopefully we can be positive and have a nice conversation about a signing, or we can even come on, or I'll even come back here when one of the mercenaries buggers off. As always, guys, thank you for watching. Amazing chat as always, and I will see you very soon. See you on the next one, guys. Take care and thank you so much. Have a good day. Thank you.